come after previous two speakers. The organisation we run, it's not so much about how much funds we give people, but what I'm going to share with you today is our story and how we feel as we're all 18-year-olds and 17-year-olds running this organisation, and how we feel that as young people we can make a change. I've put it why education outside the classroom matters, because we've just come fresh out of high school, and so we thought we'd make a parallel between what we learned at school compared to what we think we're teaching ourselves right now. Before I start, does anyone know what that word means? As a medical student. It's the fear of doctors. I'm really scared of doctors. But to be honest, I'm really scared of being here right now. And it's not because I have an issue with doctors as such. It's because ever since I grew up, my parents have always said to me one thing: you are going to be a doctor when you grow up. And I never really wanted to be a doctor, but I felt like as soon as I was born, there was like a stamp on my head saying future doctor. In fact, last year after I finished G12, when I was about to go and take a trip with some of my friends, I got 3 pieces of advice from my dad. It was, don't drink, don't talk to girls. And then he took the biggest pause, and I'm like, this last one is going to be the one. Don't do an arts degree. And I got me thinking, what do people have against arts degrees? Because I read a joke on the internet, it's actually one of my dad's favourite jokes. It's, what's the difference between an arts degree and a large pizza? Well, the large pizza can feed a family of 4. Now, disclaimer, I don't believe any of this, but when I looked up arts degrees on Google, this was the first thing that I saw. Now, which got me thinking, where did all these conceptions about education come from? Is it because arts degrees teach you nothing? Is it because arts degrees are too easy? Or is it because arts degrees don't land you jobs that pay well? Because what I thought is that people correlate education with income. And that's not the way it should be. And we heard from the first speaker that education is about giving people choice, which is my next slide. Education is about choice. What kind of choices can you have through education? You have the choice to make healthier options with your life. The choice to think critically about what you're going to do with your life. And you have the choice to hold informed opinions. Now, I've underlined informed, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later and how important that is to say, we don't really have a freedom of opinion in Australia, but we have the responsibility for that opinion to be informed. Now, we're a student organisation that encourages youth participation and engagement in social issues. Now, coming off that little spiel about arts degrees, we felt that it was really, really important that with all the prioritisation on maths, science and analytical disciplines at the moment, that people have some kind of connection with the other side of the world, which is how do we engage in philanthropy, how do we join the community and get involved in social issues. So we run topical summits every year that focus on different topics, and we try to facilitate open discussion and debate. We don't try and push a particular political view. A lot of people think like, you're like 17, you must be like a hardcore Greens voter, and you're probably going to push that on all the people who come. Well, no, we try and have an open spectrum. So that's the point of our organisation. We take topical issues and we bring youth in to talk about these issues because we feel it's important that youth have a voice. So, in 2015, we ran a summit on refugees and asylum seeker policies at International House, just up the road. And this year, we're running a summit on the modern Middle East. Now, generally, we have 100 to 200 students per the summits. They're not incredibly massive, but we feel like they make a little difference. Why do we do what we do? So, we started this organisation a couple of years ago. But when I was writing this presentation yesterday, I felt like I needed to have some kind of backing to justify why I was doing any of this. And so I looked up this really reputable study, which showed me that leaving the European Union and getting into Monash was easier than talking about politics with 16-year-olds. And that's not a good thing. You don't want a society where the youth are disinterested in politics. In fact, where do young people get their information from? Number 1, from social media. Number 2, from their peers. And number 3, from their parents. Now, this is all fine, and everyone knows that like you should get information from these 3 sources, but what this creates in general is very lopsided, one-sided information. Now, for example, if I put a picture of parents, and you can see it's not like a heteronormative kind of parent environment displayed there. And the reason I've done this is because of the recent debate about the plebiscite that's come. Now, coming from an Eastern left-wing community, the only thing I've heard about the plebiscite is that if you support the plebiscite, you have to be a homophobe. And I think there are legitimate reasons to go against and for the plebiscite, and I think that people should have the opportunity to discuss that, even if you're on one side or the other. And that's why I feel that these three avenues of information sometimes are really insufficient, because if you choose a side on a controversial topic, you're likely to be labelled as a bigot or like lambasted on either side of the debate. So that's why we do what we do. Now, what does this all create? It creates a generation, and I know personally from my generation, disinterested in civil participation in politics. And that's proved by the statistic that nearly 50% of 18-year-olds were not enrolled to vote in 2013. In fact, if you've watched TV recently, if you watched The Chaser recently, which is one of my favorite satirical political shows, they go up to these 18-year-olds and they say, what would encourage you to vote? Don't you think things like same-sex marriage, refugees, housing prices, are these not enough to make you vote? And they say no. And they said, what could make you vote? And then they said, maybe 3 years of jail time if we didn't vote. And then they said, will that make you vote? And they said, no. So we need to do something about this, because if we claim that we are a democracy and we hold these democratic liberal values at heart, we need to have the youth involved in this. So I'm going to play a couple of short clips. Now, what I felt that is when we think about youth interested in the media, and I think this is why youth are really, really put off by participating in politics, we've got these really conceptions, either they're, as I said, Greens voters, or they're total bigots. So I'm going to play this short clips. It's a video.
I came from 2015. I was hoping you guys had the time on you, or if you just had some food. It's okay. We don't eat food anymore.
It's very offensive.
Yeah, we just have solid love.
It's 100% gluten-free, halal, kosher, dairy-free, biodynamic, solar-powered, carbon neutral, and to all the colours of the rainbow.
Yeah, nah.
That's one side. And if you guys have followed Vice, this is one of the other sides.
Myself, I describe politically as a right-wing conservative. I like to progress in some areas, because I believe if you don't progress in some important areas, your ideology will die out as it becomes obsolete.
Now, if you get these two kind of binary approaches on the media, you just get disinterested in politics because you don't want to represent either of these sides. But there always has to be a middle ground, and that, as an organisation, by facilitating debate, we try and find the middle ground for these youth. So this is my kind of point here. When young people raise their voice, they're dismissed as being radical because this is the kind of perception we have of them. But sometimes young people have really, really meaningful things to say. And working with this organisation for the last 3 years, that's been my experience. And it's been eye-opening to see how much important things and how much policies that young people can represent that is kind of forgotten by the media, because what fuels the media to talk of young people is either things like skateboards and graffiti or these kind of extreme kind of views that we see. So, we believe that young people should be answering the big questions in life, such as, is offshore detention justifiable? What do I know about mental health? So last year we partnered up with AFRAN, which is a Melbourne organisation, to support global health in terms of refugee and asylum seeker populations. Now, it's really interesting to see that a lot of young people still don't have, like, a lot of stigmas about mental health, and we thought that it'd be really good to bring that out into public sphere. Should we have a plebiscite on same-sex marriage? Should we support Medicare reforms? And who makes the best halal snack packing? Now, all of these questions are really, really important. And as I said before, as an organisation, we don't try and give answers to these questions, except the last one, definitely be the kebabs. But we just try and make sure that young people have informed opinions about these. Because when your opinion is uninformed, you will be dismissed as a radical, or you will be dismissed as someone who has no idea what they're talking about. And we don't want young people to be dismissed like that. So our values are we're open, social, balanced, interactive, and respectful. Now, what do I mean by this? Now, when you think of youth political programs, often you have this conception that you need to submit like 500 different applications, go through 3 different interview processes, prove that you're in a small charity in the Bahamas, and then you get accepted into the program. But we don't have any requirements. Anyone can come join us on this. And the idea is that by opening it up, we get a wider range of views, and that's exactly what we want. It's social, because these people don't feel like they're being talked down to or patronized, because the people running the summit are their age as well. As I said, we're only 1 year out of high school, but our recent intake of volunteers has been all year 12 students, so we try and keep that legacy going, where it's students teaching students grassroots education. It's balanced because I said we don't try and provide a particular view. In fact, when we chose speakers for our last summit, we deliberately tried to choose speakers that would provide the entire range of issues. Because when we talk about refugees and asylum seekers, young people are often, they don't support offshore detention, they want to open up our borders. And we thought, perfectly fine to do that as long as it's informed, so let's get someone that can challenge that kind of view. Now, it's interactive, and I'll talk about the kind of activities we run with the students later on the next slide. And respectful, because we think that they, as we said, have something meaningful to say. So we don't try and dumb down statistics. We present the information as it is, and we trust the people, trust our participants to be able to make sense of that information, rather than say that you're young so you can't understand it, or it's too grown up for you. So this is the idea of the interactive learning. Everything we do is about the students. We run discussion groups, so students, we give them, a speaker will come up and give a presentation. So we're doing the Model Middle East this year. A speaker could come up and give a presentation on the etymology of the word jihad, for example. And then we get the students discussing that within themselves and seeing what their opinions are. Our second activity is what we call an interactive political simulation. Now this is a really, really fun activity. So what we do is we split students off into different groups. So last year when we did asylum seekers, we said, you 10 students over there, you can be the refugees. And you 10 students there, you can be the government. You 10 students there, you can be the opposition. And what does that do? They put in the shoes of their lawmakers and they figure out how difficult it is to actually negotiate these issues. In fact, last year we recreated the campaign incident. And after the students had come up to end with all their negotiations, they were like, this actually happened in real life. And that got them thinking about how hard diplomacy and politics really is. We run Q&A panels because we don't think it's about us talking to young people, it's about young people talking to us. And I'm going to talk about our charity engagement sessions in the next slide. So at the end of the day of our summit, we put the students in the shoes of our lawmakers by giving them an opportunity to get involved with some of the organizations that work in the same sphere that we do. So after going through all this content, we connect them directly with the charities that are working in this area. So, and there's something you recognize some here. Rotary's been our sponsor for the last 3 years. We have TEDx in email. We share some of the same visions as we do, because it's all about sharing ideas. And the idea is that at the end of the summit, or the end of our events, students get given a little pack. And that pack has all the information they've studied during the day, all the contact details of the speakers so they can get in touch with them individually, and all the contact details of these charities who come present, so that they know that it's not just about intellectual appreciation of the issues, but you can actually have a chance to get involved. So how can your donation today make a difference? Our summits don't take a lot of money to run. In fact, we charge $10 for the summit, and we don't make any profit off that. In terms of your donation today, it's simply a matter of providing the last 50 or 60 people with tickets, because we are running short on money for our summit at the moment. The summit is in July, so it is a bit of a kind of urgent task. So we really appreciate it. But as I said, incredibly honoured to come up here, especially after our previous speakers. So I hope you have a good day and enjoy the rest of the conference.